individual you are. Because I think as men, we factor ourselves out a little bit because we solely focus on the fact that this is the woman we met that night, regardless of how deep they are, and they give it up to us, not realizing that you obviously heavily influence. I know I'm a smooth guy.
Yeah,
I'm not going to deny that and be like,
sure.
I'm not very quick with words and I'm not very efficient in the way I approach women. I do, you know? But at the same time, you having that influence obviously can make that difference too, right? But we almost
don't give ourselves enough credit at times,
which is negative in a sense, because now we're just focusing on that the society we live in right now with the whole double standard, right? We're just focusing on the woman now.
Yep.
That we completely forget that we have some sort of influence on that.
Sure.
Right? So that is another thing I think we need to factor in ourselves.
Yeah.
Circumstances, obviously, of where you met, right? So it's hit and miss, right? But
right. Sure. So speaking of influence, have you ever had any negative sexual experiences? I mean, where maybe not yourself, but maybe being sort of in the university setting, because as you know, this past fall I kind of traveled and promoted consent and made sure that people understood it. A lot of people didn't seem to know that you really can't give consent when you're drunk.
Yep.
And people kind of, are there still guys that try to, and I don't want to say guys, it's just because I've seen it, so I can't really say that, but are there still people that try to take advantage of that situation? Even with everything that's going on, like the Stanford rapist situation, did that make any kind of difference, or do you still see people putting pressure and things where you're like, man, that's just not right?
It's not more so, I think, pressure, because it's just done now in bar situations. I think in such like a low key manner, right? So like, you can still have situation when it's a group of girls, a group of guys going on. That one guy's targeting that one girl and they want to be together, but like it looks like everyone's just interacting with each other. But realistically, this guy's buying an extra shot here and there because he thinks and knows at the end of the night this girl's going to want to come back, right?
Really?
But it's normalized now, because when you think about it, we all come out as friends. We're just friends. Oh, I think they're talking, so they might be hooking up.
Really?
Not realizing whether or not, that girl wanted to. And sometimes I think girls do go home with guys drunk, whatever, hook up, next morning wake up, we're like, fuck, what the shit? But because their friends were all there before they left together, now they're like, oh, well, I guess it's okay.
Really?
Right?
It's
so
not uncommon for guys to buy girls drinks.
Exactly, right? So,
right, fair enough. And I don't want to add to the whole double standard thing, because we're trying to make sure that we're kind of gender neutral here, right? But at the same time, there is still a little bit of the old school factor where, yes, guys sometimes want to buy the woman a drink. It's still more common, I think, for a woman to expect a man to buy a drink and we're talking about heterosexual relationships, of course, but than for a man to expect for a woman to buy him a drink, right? So, like, I mean, I don't go to the bar, and obviously because as men, I mean, some of us we're just naturally built physically bigger than the majority of women, so I'm not as intimidated by a woman potentially buying a drink and then putting a drug in it. I don't even think about that, right? But I mean, that's a big thought for women these days, especially in university settings. Not so much university settings, but university age, going out to the bars and going out to the clubs. So I guess my question is then, being an athlete and being in sort of the locker room setting, do you hear some stories at all where you're just like, man, that's fucking kind of shady, I don't know about that, or are things getting better? Because I know when I was an athlete, which was 15 years ago, in the dressing room, a lot of the talk was kind of like borderline. It just definitely sensed like they used their athleticism as a way to apply pressure to get what they wanted. And I'm sure that's not the case, but has there ever been any instances where you almost had to pull a buddy aside, or are things getting better?
I would say, I mean, locker room talk is always going to be locker room talk.
Right.
And boys would be boys in that sense, obviously, when I have certain conversations.
Sure.
You wouldn't
and
have,
women will be women, and fair enough.
Do the same thing,
yeah,
right?
They're talking about cock size and things like that.
Exactly. So, right? So the thing with that, now, I mean, obviously, I would say it is getting better. Okay. Because more so, I think now, our generation we are more aware.
Okay.
Because obviously, as an athlete, I think you get put in situations where it can be problematic. And the thing is, could look at it one way and say, okay, obviously, as an athlete, as a football player, whatever, as a track star, you're using, your athleticism to be able to get certain things from a certain group. But then again, there's the other side of it when you have literally girls that will flock to our section in the bar with football guys or whatever because they're Western football guys. Literally, you could sit in the corner of Jack's and just have girls hover over.
Really?
Right? So
I wonder why. I never had that feeling.
Oh, it's crazy. It's the craziest thing. Like, you ever watch, the varsity team out back when I played ball or whatever, went out with a couple of DBs or whatever sitting down in the corner. You didn't even have to approach her, bro.
Mm-hmm.
You'd just have to sit there and pick who you want to approach, and she can decide if she wants to talk to you or the other guy, But they're all there.
Yeah.
And they're rotating groups of different girls come in and mingle and stuff. You never had to go out and reach, right? So I think it's just because of that aggression, in the sense that we feel the need to use, if it's really not as, apparent.
Right.
Because it's now so easy, and then we date it back now. So obviously a society that is so heavily, influenced by sex and wanting to be able to just have sex for sex sake.
Sure.
Everything's just becoming easier.
Yeah.
Almost, as bad as it sounds, but it's a reality. Right?
Yeah.
So, in that way, it's getting better that people are, young men or athletes rather are aware, of what's going on. But at the same time, it's almost counterintuitive now, because now you have, certain women who think of these athletes as such, like, oh,
sure,
right? And they make it very easy, right? So
I guess it depends what you're into, right? Going back in time, I think I would have rather, instead of doing the reality TV thing, I should have trained harder and been a fucking football player. It sounds like they make out better for longer periods of time.
I don't think I've ever been to one of the Mustang football games with a group of girls who haven't gone for the sole purpose of checking out the football players.
Strictly.
Like, none of the
they don't even know what football is.
Have known how the game of football is played. It's like, oh yeah, we're going to the football game, yeah. It's like,
oh, God bless them.
I know.
Yeah, for sure. I'd love to get that. It's true we couldn't get some of your cheerleaders on here behind, like, joining in on the podcast. You know what I mean? So let's get into a little more serious issues here. Mm-hmm. When it comes to studying and where you are, and we'll talk about sort of what you're doing for yourself now. Having come from the past that you did, and going through your relationships and some of the heartbreak, how did you maintain a positive mindset? Has anxiety and depression or anything like that ever been a factor in your life? Have you ever had to deal with? Everybody has to deal with some anxiety, but how do you handle it? And would you say that you've ever gone through? Because you're a fucking busy guy, man. Like, you don't even have time to go through a bout of depression.
And that's just the thing right there, though.
Is you're just keeping so busy that you just don't even have time to.
And idle hands is the devil's workshop. The only reason why I keep busy is at times to divert myself from real issues I had, to be honest, and that's just that.
Really?
Right. So, and my parents even, sit me down ever so often and say, Marlon, you need to focus on this for yourself. Don't do this. You're doing too much. Focus here.
Yeah.
But what they don't realize is the only reason I'm doing that is because I don't want to have to maybe think about certain things.
Right.
So I would much rather work, I want 4 jobs.
Sure.
And school and play football 40 hours a week, than be by myself and not doing something else, and obviously after a while you start to stretch yourself out so far that you're not able to completely do your best at various different, things that you need to be doing for yourself, or you don't become, you become very selfless. Right. When I find myself doing more for other people in opposed to myself, because now I feel, more gratified if I'm doing things for others and taking care of other people than myself, because I don't even think about myself anymore, because I've suppressed, I guess, certain feelings so much through being a workaholic, being overactive, doing this, doing that I don't even think about myself as an individual at times, right? So it's funny. I've never really sat down and thought about and say it till right now.
Yeah,
but
I can tell you're getting a little uneasy.
It's a very, it's a very raw, real thing, and I've never admitted it really when I think about it, but realistically, this is what it comes down to, and this is exactly why I think I am the way I am. This is why I try to be busy. This is why certain things I'm not supposed to be suppressed, and I suppress. Yep. Because I don't want to have to take time to sit there, and kind of deal with it that way.
Right.
Which is completely unhealthy.
Well,
But I'm aware. But,
you know what though? I mean, at your age, you have a lot to kind of get through, and society expects you to get through that. You go to school, you get a degree, and then you get, you do the sports, you do the partying, and then you what are you left with? You're left with, and you'll see. I mean, for the people that are kind of Marlon's age at university and college, I mean, the world's sort of big and bright and in front of you, and you don't really think about some of the stuff that you've gone through until you have a chance to kind of get out into the world. Mm-hmm. And as you've seen before in a lot of our previous podcasts, a lot of the people are sort of 30 plus, and now they're like, shit, now I have to face all that shit that I kind of stayed busy through, and I have to work through that now. And you hear them kind of branching out and telling their stories. So I totally get it, and I don't think it's necessarily... maybe you can, I mean, some people might look at it as being unhealthy, but at the same time, for what you're doing, you paid for this education, you have to get through this education, you don't really have the luxury of, and not that it's a luxury, because fucking dealing with anxiety disorder and depression sucks, and sometimes you just have to deal with it, you go through it. But if you can maintain that keeping busy and push through and keep pushing yourself, until you get that degree in your hands, that's not such a bad thing. Like, this is your last week of exams, right?
Tomorrow's my last exam.
Last exam, and then are you done at Western?
I'm back actually this summer.
Okay.
2
courses?
I'm done.
Then you're done. Okay, so how have you, when anxiety and exam pressure has come, how have you coped with that?
Oh, gosh.
Because that's something you can't avoid.
Put on about 10 pounds of muscle.
Lots of...
I wish I could.
Yeah.
I love the gym.
Lots of going to the gym and just burning off steam.
And just, I find being with people, right? And by that, I mean just really training my clients, which seems like an obvious thing because you think I'm working, but realistically, every one of my personal training clients I have, are different and unique in their own way, and I enjoy so much having them come in and be able to just sit and work with them and just analyze their mannerisms and listen to them talk to me about their issues and help them through the workouts, whatever it is. And that for me is a fulfilling thing, and it feels good.
Yeah.
And it almost distracts me from that. And immediately after that, I'll train myself, do a really hard workout, go home, shower, go to Weldon, read, study, whatever it is I need to do, right? And repeat. So for me, again, I just find just being with people, but again, trying to find a way to help people and then training myself has been my biggest coping mechanism, right? So
that's a good thing.
So far, it's been working, yeah.
You know what, dude? That's a fucking amazing point, because a lot of the problem with when people do face anxiety and depression, a lot of them are thinking internally. But you're focused on kind of helping others, and that's a great way to look at the world as sort of to give something back, right? Rather than focus on inside. So, what is in the future for Mr. Marlon Brown? Like, what are your dreams and aspirations? And let's talk about what you're doing now. I mean, you're kind of building a business in a sense, right? So, is this something that when you're completely done with UWO that you're going to stick to, or you seem like a guy that likes to listen to other people talk? Are you potentially going to go down and maybe follow the psychology route? What are your thoughts?
Interesting.
Yeah.
Actually, one interesting fact that you said, I actually want to be able to connect both.
Connect both.
So not only being able, because I mean, when you think about your well-being as an individual as a whole, a lot of people just think at times physical, but obviously the mental is equally, if not, I think more so, because I mean your brain is a command center for everything else in your body and everything else that goes on. You take care of your mind, the body, soul, and spirit. Everything comes intertwined in one.
I agree.
So now being able to do, study clinical psychology at Western, and at the same time, being a personal trainer and being obviously an athlete and heavily involved in that, being able to combine both, right? So maybe one day, being able to own my own practice,
right?
Would be ideal. For me, that a place where we could obviously be able to not only harvest being able to have someone sit down and talk to you about certain emotional issues and stuff that you're dealing with, but also be able to target the physical aspect of it and sit down that way we create that connection as a hub type kind of thing. And apart from that, I mean, the businessman in me obviously wants to be able to own that
facility,
that we can monetize this abilities, right? So,
sure.
also, 7-year span plan, we're working progressively to
Mm-hmm.
it. But for now, obviously, the degree is important.
Yep.
My connections are important, being
Yep.
able to, work, whether it's, through various different friends and stuff that have started doing their own business and stuff, and we've been helping